Porzingis is one-on-one. He spins. He dunks. Wow. Three-pointer by Porzingis. Good. Oh, baby. Oh, jump shot by Carmelo is short. And Porzingis above everybody. Dunks it home. Galloway for three. No, not that time. And Porzingis stuffs it home. He scraped the ceiling. Wow. Down low to Porzingis. He puts the ball shot and hits. This crowd is roaring.
Kristaps Porzingis has another big night for the Knicks. 29 points and 11 boards in a win over the Hornets. Stephen A., what is your reaction to all this sing love in your city?
I got to admit, I'm stunned. He deserves it. I like the promise. Phil Jackson looks like he did well with this pick. I'm actually going to go to the Knicks game. I'm going to end my book. Are you?
Yeah.
I'm going to go in a few days. I'm going to go to
Really?
I called them yesterday to let them know I was coming. And I will say this to you, though. My position on Phil Jackson is still one ripe for trepidation. You don't get paid $10 to $12 million just to finish last, stink during the regular season, and capture a high draft pick. As an executive, with his cachet, his name recognition, you have to show me you can go out there and recruit a marquee free agent. Otherwise, you ain't no different than Sam Hinkie in Philadelphia, who couldn't recruit anybody out of a paper bag. He's just trying to build off of the draft.
So are you willing to admit that the future is suddenly now for your Knicks thanks to a 20-year-old
I wouldn't say
who's 7 foot 3 inches tall?
I wouldn't say the future is now. What I would tell you is that I like Porzingis a lot.
29 and 11?
Well, that's against Charlotte, but
Did you see the
like
dream shake?
I like him a lot.
See the putback dunks?
I saw it.
See the easy threes?
I saw it's a little bit awkward. Got to put some weight on his bones. We'll see what happens.
Do you realize he's putting pressure on Melo to live up to Porzingis?
Yes, he is, and I like that. I like that. I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing for the New York Knicks. I want to state for the record, you should go and support the Knicks. My boycott is over.
One thing for me, please. Take a selfie with Porzingis. Please, please send us that. That was our Chris Carter earlier today on Mike and Mike, speaking out about the lack of recognition for white NFL receivers. We welcome in Brian Dawkins to the desk. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
All right, Brian, so do you agree with CeCe's comments here?
I hear what he's saying, but on this one I have to disagree.
Okay.
I think that if you look at Wes Welker and Edelman, I think that a lot of it, I think Tom Brady takes away from what they do. I think sometimes even goes with Peyton Manning with some of his receivers. Because of what Peyton is, as great as he is, they say that you can just put anybody in those offenses and they'll have success. I think that when you look at the receiver position, for whatever reason, it's become, well, I do know the reason, but because of the athletes that are at the position, the receivers, the brothers, they are able to do things on a consistent basis on the outside to exploit some of the coverages that goes up against them with today's rules, the way that things are today. I think that if you look at Jordy Nelson, I think he is one of the exceptions because he has that athleticism. He can actually get off the line of scrimmage. He can stretch the field. He has the speed. He has the ability to do some of those things. I don't think it, but I really don't think it's discrimination. It reminds me of the cornerback position. And I was really trying to think, when was the last time I can remember having a white cornerback?
You got to go way back.
Think about it. Like, when was the last time? And I don't think it's because of, cornerbacks, white guys, we're prejudiced against those guys.
You're just saying the facts.
Just saying the
facts,
athletes,
right?
more of the athletes are apt to be African Americans at that position. But I don't think that the guys are not getting the credit. I think they're getting the credit. I just don't think it's going to be the credit that the Julio Jones gets, the Megatron gets, because listen, when you're talking about those guys, you're talking about potential Hall of Fame type of guys. So I think that they get that type of credit. But to Chris's point, Wes Welker and those guys will not. I don't think they ever will get that type of pub. It's not because of white. I think it's because of talent.
Well, that's basically what I said, and I think that when you look at it from the point of what Chris Carter was saying, I get where he's coming from, but there's a couple of sides to this. Number one is what you're pointing out, the fact that predominantly at those positions, you see black players as opposed to white players. And then the other point that I brought up to Skip and Molly earlier was the fact that in the case of a Julian Edelman example, who Skip considers a stud, we've raved so much about Tom Brady that pretty much everybody is glossed over because of the greatness of Tom Brady, because you're perceived as being a byproduct of the greatness that he puts on display on a year-to-year basis. Whereas, for example, even though Aaron Rodgers is so great, there isn't a sustained system spanning years and years and years in Green Bay for you to look at Aaron Rodgers and say it's everybody else with Aaron Rodgers. You see what I'm saying? Whereas with Tom Brady, he's been in New England, you know, for the last 13, 14 years doing this with the same coach. You understand? And pretty much the same system. So you look at it from that perspective, and obviously that factors into the equation as well. And then we can take it to another level. Like, for example, we see Matthew Stafford. But he's throwing the Megatron.
Yes, he is.
When Megatron doesn't seem to be Megatron, where does Detroit's offense go? How does it look? And so because of that, and you see that if you're getting shine, I think that the one thing that we have to recognize, black or white, if you're getting shine at a particular offensive position, you sort of take away from some of the other guys who are valid stars. In Minnesota, I'm quite sure they may have some dudes, whether it be in Rudolph, Bridgewater, or whomever, that, you know, have contributed, obviously, to them being 7-2. But all we think about is AP. Adrian Peterson.
Yep.
And especially in the NFL, with that shield, helmets on, shoulder pads, equipment, people not having a personal relationship with you from a visual perspective because you're wearing that equipment and this sort of hides your identity, combined with this fixation on promoting the shield and those 3 letters, all of those things added to the fact that there are particular athletes who get the most shine. I think all of those play a role in diminishing the sizzle that the white receivers could potentially get. But it ain't many of them, and that also is a reason why.
Can I add to that also? When you go into a game and you're going to prepare for a team, as a defensive coordinator, as a defensive player, we look at receivers and say, okay, who do I have to roll coverage to because of their greatness, because of how the team either uses them? For instance, Randy Moss, all right? When he was in his heyday, there's only so many guys I gave that type of respect to line up maybe 15 yards deep instead of 10 to 12. It's because of what he can do. So, again, I think because of the talent, you look at things a little different. You see, we've seen things a specific way for so long, and it's been those guys outside, Megatron, those type of guys, that now we're getting more of the long, linear type receivers instead of the short, quick receivers, and some of the white guys are the short, quick receivers, and they work in the slot better.
Well, Skip, to piggyback off of his point, remember Barry Sanders running back for the Detroit Lions. With other people, you look at guys, and, you know, you had this dude, the Hitman, or somebody like him, playing against Barry Sanders at that time, playing against anybody else. You're trying to cave their chest in. You're trying to smash them. With Barry Sanders, you literally found yourself trying to stand in your lane and saying, okay, let me just make sure I control this gap, because he was so elusive, he would embarrass you with the jukes that he would put on you. So his talent made you scared to come at him full throttle because he could embarrass you. That kind of ability.
So I'm hearing this conclusion, that it's not discrimination as you see it.
Right.
It's simply the white receivers don't deserve that much credit because they're not that good. Is that fair?
I'm not saying deserve the credit. I'm saying get the type of shine, as he put it, that some of the black players have.
But you're saying
because they break
but they're
the
just
top
not as good, right? Is that a conclusion?
Well, they're not playing the position, Skip.
There are 2 freaks to me who are white wide receivers.
Jordy Nelson.
And I put Jordy Nelson in because remember, he's 6'3", 217 and runs 4.5. Okay,
right.
That's big time.
Yes.
I'm not saying he's Megatron. I do think he was having Megatron-like impact for Aaron Rodgers.
Got it.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers has been nearly as good without Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so it's a big deal. That's a lot of credit I'm giving Jordy Nelson. I think Julian Edelman is a little freak. He's not as big. Again, about 6 feet tall, maybe 200 pounds. But listen, he is 4'5". He has rare quickness and reasonably great speed downfield. They can split him outside, and he can run by people too. I'm not saying you roll coverage to him, but he can hurt you by running by people.
Let me ask you this, because you actually are better to answer CC's proclamations than either Brian or myself with the question I'm about to throw at you. You talk about Julian Edelman and how much of a little freak he is.
Stephen A., I'm sorry to cut you off. Hold that thought and that question. We have to go to break really quickly, but we're going to stay on this subject and come right back to it. More in just a minute. Welcome back into First Take. Brian Dawkins is still here with us, and let's pick up where we left off. Stephen A., you had a question for Skip.
I had a question because based off of what Chris Carter said, I think more so than Brian Dawkins or myself, Skip, you're the perfect person to answer this question. When you talk about Julian Edelman being that stud, but not being recognized, because that's what Chris Carter was alluding to, how responsible does somebody like even yourself feel, considering the fact that you rave so much about Tom Brady, knowing that potentially it could be rationale for how Julian Edelman gets reduced, simply because the greatness of Tom Brady is elevated above all things?
But I've told you for years.
You have.
I thought Welker was more a product of Brady than this kid.
Right.
Because this guy, as he's emerged, Edelman, he's his own man to me, because he will get in anybody's face down the field. He will make noise. He is that guy. He is a fire starter. He is helping Brady. He's helping make Brady as much as vice versa.
You've always made that point, but stay with me on this, Brian, because what I'm asking you is, because of how much you rave about Brady, how much of an issue do you think the media, including yourself, plays in the fact that Edelman, there may be validity to Chris Carter's comments because of how much Brady is so elevated? Because when I hear you talk about Edelman, I'm not going to lie to you. Even to me, it's an afterthought, because I remember you saying that everybody's a product of Brady's greatness.
Could we conclude that if Edelman were black, that he would also be being discounted as a product?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
I'm with you on that.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that well could be the case.
The only person that will not ever be is Randy Moss.
That's a good point.
Because of who he is. And again, when we start talking about these individuals, these being Randy Moss type guys, that's once in a lifetime type of dude. These are not the dudes to come along all the time.
Right.
And believe me, when you have GMs and they sit and watch film and they're trying to get personnel, you best believe they're not saying, okay, because this guy's a white guy, I'm not going to bring him on the team.
Nobody's accusing them of that.
They're not doing that.
Yeah, right.
On the other side of it, when guys step on the football field, the respect factor, and I'm speaking from a player's perspective, a respect factor for a player in a system goes a long way. It does. But then you just have those special guys that step outside of the system and begin to do things that the system did not teach it, teach them to do.
Yep.
This is what I'm talking about when you start talking about some of the brothers that have done it for a consistent basis outside.
Right. And I think Jordy Nelson is second echelon of what you're talking about.
Yes.
He's not in the top. He's not in that Randy Moss, Megatron, Julio, whoever you want to throw up in, Des Bryant. He's not there, but he's second echelon as an impact wide receiver. And the only other starting wide receiver I know, and I brought him up, is Eric Decker. They're about the same size and same speed, but Eric Decker obviously is not Jordy Nelson. And then if we just look at the numbers, there are about 4 other slot receivers who are white, right? You got Edelman, Amendola now, obviously replacing Edelman. You got Cole Beasley in Dallas, and you got what's left of Wes Welker now playing for the Rams. And after that, I don't know anymore. So the facts are the facts. It's just, there just aren't very many.
Yeah. They're not. But again, I guess back to Chris's point, are they getting the credit for being? And I think that they are. I think that the guys that do it, do it well, get credit.
I think they do, but I think that the ones who don't, that may deserve it, is because of the greatness of a teammate that has such a profound impact that you can't help but gloss over it, because Patriots are about next man up. Even no matter who goes down, because we got the ninja, we got Tom Brady. Enough said. And when that happens, that is what
Brady
contributes to that's the shadow over those guys. That's what I think.
We'll leave it there. Brian, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it. We have a white NBA player who's certainly getting the love in New York. New York Daily News with the headline, Zing Sanity. Stephen A. loves it. Porzingis taking
Molly will not be on the show in the future.
So what does Stephen A.
She brought this up just to annoy me.
Insanity in NYC.
Miss Connecticut.
You do have that power.
Trying to talk junk.